Hey y'all, today we're going to be reacting to Tucker Carlson's take on Afghanistan. This should be interesting. He is traditionally very anti-war, very anti sort of interventionism, so it'll be interesting to see what he thinks about this situation. I'm guessing he's going to absolutely, wreck Joe Biden, which, that's fair. I think Joe Biden messed this up pretty badly. If y'all want to see my thoughts on this entire Afghanistan thing, just go to my YouTube channel and you'll see a video on Afghanistan there. And if y'all are watching this video on YouTube, I'll link it right here, up here. You'll see a little pop-up come out. Anyways, let's get to this. Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully Tucker surprises me. Maybe he's actually got a great take. But let's go. Okay. Let's see if the camera angle's correct. Camera angle's correct. Excellent. Let's get it going.
On television today, this afternoon, and talk to the country about Afghanistan.
Wait, give me a sec.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Joe Biden went on television today, this afternoon, and talked to the country about Afghanistan. He said, among other things, that we had no choice but to leave. And on that question, he is right. The United States should have left Afghanistan 19 years ago when it became obvious that Osama bin Laden wasn't there and had fled to Pakistan. There was no reason to stay in the country.
True.
And the longer we remained, the worse it was always going to be. The question is, and the relevant question today, is how exactly do you get out? Just because something is necessary doesn't mean you get to ignore the details of it. If you learned you needed an emergency appendectomy, would it matter to you who performed the operation, a surgeon with a scalpel or a drunk guy with a pocket knife? Yes, it would matter to you.
It's actually a good point.
To Joe Biden, apparently, he barely mentioned the withdrawal today.
Yeah.
Biden did the necessary thing in the ugliest possible way.
I agree.
If you've been watching television during the day, you've probably seen this footage. It's terrified men in sandals clinging to the side of a C-17 as it attempts to leave Afghanistan. This is the iconic photo of the moment. It's the final humiliating scene of the American occupation of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
That means that after 20 years and trillions of dollars, our leaders couldn't manage to pull off an orderly retreat. They couldn't even secure a single runway. And that's the main lesson of the fall of Kabul. We are led by buffoons. They have no idea what they're doing. We know that now. They're imposters. Everything they touch turns to chaos, not just there, but here.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, Joe Biden had a pretty good not Afghanistan. Ignore what I just said. I mean, pretty good infrastructure bill. So, I wouldn't say everything they touch is chaos and everything's bad. They've done a few positive things. They extended the eviction moratorium. They've done some good things. So, I wouldn't completely, destroy them, completely just dunk on them. But, Tucker's going to do that because they're Democrats. But he's mostly right here. I just disagree with that statement there.
These are the people who run the Amtrak station in Midtown Manhattan, the one that's filled with drug addicts. They're the people in charge of the power grid in the state of California. They have no useful skills. And yet somehow these same people assured us they were going to turn Stone Age Afghanistan into modern Belgium. Remembering it now is bitter and hilarious. At this point, our leaders are so discredited, they're running out of ways to criticize the Taliban. Is the Biden administration really going to attack the new government of Afghanistan for forcing women to cover their faces? Are American diplomats actually...
Tucker, did you just support the Taliban? I must have. Damn, bro, I must have. Secondhand, like weed smoke, I must have snorted that shit because he didn't just say he supported the Taliban.
Kabul, we are led by buffoons to chaos, not just there, but here. They're the people in charge of the people now is bitter and hilarious.
I'm in shock. I gotta listen to that again. I'm sorry.
Discredited, they're running out of ways to criticize the Taliban. Is the Biden administration really going to attack the new government of Afghanistan for forcing women to cover their faces? Are American diplomats actually going to lecture Taliban leaders about toppling statues?
How the hell are you Is he going to go into a segue about the left now and toppling statues? But don't forget, he just literally said, why are they criticizing the new government? As if Taliban is just a regular old oh, it's just another party that is taking over Afghanistan. No. And as if he's okay with forcing women to cover their faces. That's a horrible thing. Why is he against Biden criticizing it? Is he supportive of that? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. He is a fascist. So I wouldn't be surprised that he would, he would want to force women to do all that. I just need to listen to it again. I'm sorry if I keep repeating this segment, but I really got to hear that.
To attack the new government way is bitter besides the Taliban. Is the Biden administration really going to attack the new government of Afghanistan for forcing women to cover their faces?
Yes, because it's bad. Forcing anyone to do anything against their will is really bad. Right? Okay, maybe forcing a criminal to go to jail, that's not bad. But in terms of regular people, right? Forcing a woman to cover her face, no, that is bad because you're taking away her freedom to wear what she wants to wear. And it's based on stupid reasoning anyways. So, yes, they should criticize, and so should you if you care about freedom like you say you do, but you don't. You're a fascist. Just like your butt buddy Sagar. He actually agreed with the Taliban. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. This is Tucker Carlson. My god. What a freaking insane maniac. He thinks it's bad to criticize the Taliban for forcing women to cover their faces. Yeah, of course it's bad. It's terrible. Did you just... This guy's crazy. Let's keep watching the video.
Are American diplomats actually going to lecture Taliban leaders about toppling statues? Probably not going to happen. That's how much credibility our leaders have lost, how much moral authority they have squandered in the past 20 years. But most of what they've lost is their self-awareness. They have none.
What was his point there? Like...
That's how much toppling statues? Probably not going to happen. That's how much credibility our leaders have lost, how much moral authority they have squandered in the past 20 years. But most of what they've lost is their self-awareness. They have none. Until just this weekend, for example, they had no idea how badly they were failing in Afghanistan. Here's John Kirby of the Pentagon explaining that, calm down, America, everything in Kabul is under control. Keep in mind, we have not edited this tape, and it's not from last year. This is 3 days ago.
Kabul is not, right now, in an imminent threat environment.
Oh, good job, John Kirby.
That was a bad one.
Of course he'll keep his job.
He set himself up.
A man who's willing to defend pregnant fighter pilots can work in Washington forever. And so can Mark Milley at the Joint Chiefs and the rest of the woke clowns at the Pentagon.
What does he have to do with this? And what does wokeness have to do with this?
Generals who are much more worried about white rage in West Virginia than they are about our enemies abroad. When was the last time these guys won a war? Seriously, they hate it when you ask that question. Nothing bothers them more. But what's the answer? When was that? And while we're at it, how about the intel agents?
What does winning a war mean anything of... I guess it makes them a better military, guys. But I don't think anyone could have won the war in Afghanistan, no matter who you put. If you put one of your nutty right-wing generals, I guarantee you they don't win the war either. So I think that's a pretty stupid point.
Their job is very specific. Give policymakers some rough sense of what's going to happen in the world, especially on the big questions, so they can make wise decisions. How's the intel world doing on that? Let's see. The collapse of the Soviet Union, 9/11, the fall of Kabul, not small things, major history-changing events. They missed all of those completely. They had no idea. So why are they still there? Well, because someone's got to read your text messages, got to make sure you're not making fun of trans people or anything like that. And then
what? He's trying to connect Afghanistan to social justice. I don't understand the connection. Like, they're there because they want to make sure you're not making fun of trans people. Or maybe they're there because they got elected, Tucker. I know, crazy, right? You know, we non-fascists believe in a democratic process. Could it be better? Sure. But it's still a good thing. I wonder if Tucker peddled the whole Trump actually won and the system is corrupting. Because I don't know if he did. But it kind of sounds like he might. based on what he's saying right now.
Then there's the Biden administration overseeing all of it, the group led by the senile credit card shill from Delaware and staffed by power-hungry non-entities who believe they're God. Hubris? That doesn't describe the vibe at the current White House. It's much more grandiose than that, and there's far less justification for it. Here's our sitting national security advisor, for example. He is 44 years old. As far as we can tell, he has never had an actual job. Outside of school, he has no accomplishments whatsoever. Watch this highly respected Rhodes Scholar explain that, in fact, everything you're seeing on TV from Afghanistan is a victory.
How do you explain getting this so wrong?
Well, first, Savannah, to be fair, the helicopter has been the mode of transport from our embassy to the airport for the last 20 years.
But you know the larger point. It's not the helicopter. It's not the mechanism. No, it's the last-minute scramble. You know that. It's the last-minute scramble when the assurance.
Yeah, good. NBC is pressing it. That anchor is pressing.
This was not what we were going to see.
The reason that there are U.S. forces at the airport effectuating a successful drawdown of our embassy, securing the airport to be able to get other people out, is because the president pre-positioned those forces, thousands of them, in the Gulf so they could be moved in rapidly in the event that there was a rapid collapse.
Oh, so they're effectuating a successful drawdown of our embassy. So that's what we call it when you burn your files and flee in a helicopter from approaching gunfire. You're just effectuating another successful drawdown. Woohoo! We could go on. We could torture you with the failures and the details. We haven't even mentioned our, quote, Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, a man so mediocre you gasp when you hear him speak. Can you really be that dumb and run the Department of State? Yeah, you can. And the last several decades of American foreign policy prove that you can. Afghanistan is not the first country our leaders have left worse than they found it. The list of those countries is long, and sadly it's growing.
Iraq.
Part of the reason is that for decades, left-wing academics in the U.S. have used the developing world as a laboratory to test their theories about how societies ought to be ordered but aren't.
What? Who started the Iraq War? George Bush. Who started Afghanistan? You know what I'm saying? They invaded Afghanistan to find Osama bin Laden. George Bush. How is it left-wing academics when a Republican president started both those things? I don't get it. What is he talking about? Like, he's making good points on criticizing Biden for failing this, but then he's trying to like conflate it with social justice, which really doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what I think the point he's trying to make is that they're incompetent and bad, but what does social justice have to do with this? This is completely a mess based on the military and the corrupt Democrats and Republicans. They're the ones who created this mess. It has nothing to do with progressives. Progressives are actually anti-war. We want to end these things. We wouldn't get involved in the first place. So this is an incredibly stupid critique by Tucker.
Over time, they've constructed a parallel government of NGOs that work alongside our Pentagon and our State Department, as well as with the United Nations, to impose radical social engineering projects on the world's poorest people who have no say in the matter. Over the past 20 years, for example, Congress has allocated close to $1 billion to export academic feminism to Afghanistan. Where'd that money go? Well, it went to programs like a 2-year master's degree in gender and women's studies offered at Kabul University.
What's bad about that? It's education, and it's good to know gender studies and understand gender. That's not bad at all. He's trying to make it seem bad. It's not bad. Yeah, helping women get educated in a country where they're oppressed is a great idea, and I support that wherever it needs to be. Wherever it needs to happen, I'll support it.
Something Afghans apparently never knew they needed. Another U.S. government effort, meanwhile, funded, quote, activities that educate and engage Afghan men and boys to challenge gender stereotypes. Right, they weren't doing that enough. And of course, always and everywhere, our leaders enforced the most American of all cultural exports, affirmative action. American-funded gender advisors demanded that women compromise at least 10% of the Afghan National Army and a still larger proportion of that country's political leadership. Thanks to American-imposed...
Yeah, because there's so much sexism and, prejudice against women in Afghanistan that, yeah, they said there should be at least a minimum of this many women in there. And 10% is not that much. It's only 10%. Come on, Tucker. So what, you don't want any women in politics? I mean, it's not a fair system at all, so there has to be affirmative action in some way. Again, complete non-understanding of the situation.
Gender quotas, dozens of women ultimately were installed as representatives in Afghan's parliament. How'd that work? Well, the whole thing was a sham, as always. In fact, many of these new female legislators had never been to the provinces they claimed to represent. Almost nobody in Afghanistan liked any of this, by the way.
Are you kidding me? The Afghanistan people wanted the US there. Now, there definitely was... Why would the people be clinging to planes in Kabul? Why would people be, like, doing that if they didn't want the US there? They should be, yay, Taliban, right? No. And I'm not saying that we should just stick in Afghanistan forever, or we should have stayed there for that long. We shouldn't have, but we created a situation where they were dependent on us for basic human rights. And then once we do that, we pull out. So it's like a double whammy. It's really bad. So he said that they exported gender politics. Like, now let me see. Afghanistan gender study. Okay, so let's see. Seems like a normal freaking thing. I don't understand. It seems okay. I don't get why Tucker's so against this. It's completely fine in my eyes. You know what I'm saying? Gender studies. Yeah, educate people on everything.
And why would they? As one USAID official conceded in a classified report, quote, focusing on gender made things more unstable because it caused revolts. It caused revolts. But officials kept doing it. They kept pushing radical gender politics anyway because they could, because they were in charge of these Stone Age people they were going to educate.
Stone Age people. Notice how he uses that term as if they're inferior or something.
This is the face of the late American empire. Gender studies seminars at gunpoint. This is...
At gunpoint. Yes, they're like... They put young Afghan boys and girls and other genders like, hey, you learn gender studies? No? Bang! Oh, you learn gender studies? Okay, you can go. What? Tucker. My man. This is a completely unhinged rant. Completely. This is insane. He's trying to say gender studies is what caused this to happen with the Taliban? Is that what he's saying? Because I feel like that's what he's saying.
This is not like other empires. Unlike other empires, ours does not operate for our benefit. America toppled Saddam but took no oil. Remember that? Instead, the entire point of our imperial project is to give...
They didn't take any oil. I find that very difficult to believe. Iraq holds more than 112 billion barrels of oil, the world's second largest proven reserves. Iraq also considers 1 trillion cubic feet of natural gas and is a focal point for regional and international security issues. Wow. I mean, Iraq imported 1.3 million barrels of oil from Iraq. I mean, it's very clearly known that they did take oil. It just said 11.2 million barrels of oil or something. So, yeah, they did take oil. Sorry, Tucker, that's wrong.
Meaning to the empty lives of the neoliberal bureaucrats who administer it and then enrich the contractors who work for them. Who are enriched, you'll be happy to know.
A lot of the contractors are Republican too. The Republicans support this war. Now Trump didn't, but he still increased drone strikes. He didn't pull out of Afghanistan, so yeah.
No. What role do the rest of us play in this? None. We just pay for it. Yesterday, to underscore that point, the Biden administration told us that American citizens would not be given priority in the evacuation from Kabul. So our government's official position...
That's bullshit. He literally said in his that he's gonna get everyone out, all the Americans and people who are working in that embassy are gonna get out.
...is that American lives are not more valuable than the lives of foreigners. But you already knew that because you've seen our southern border.
What, should they be more valuable? I don't think they're more valuable. I think everyone has value. But maybe you don't, Tucker.
The people who made the Afghan occupation possible would like to see a lot more of our southern border, much more unrestrained immigration to the U.S. Bring in the refugees, they're screaming tonight. That's the only lesson they're taking from this debacle. Quote, America must not stand idly by, Mitt Romney tweeted today. The president must urgently rush to defend, rescue, and give and expand asylum. There is no time to spare.
Based, Mitt.
There's lots of time to spare as Americans die of fentanyl ODs and millions of foreign nationals whose identities we can't confirm move here. But when it comes to bringing Afghans to our country, there's no time to spare. And Liz Cheney firmly agrees with that. So does her friend Bill Kristol.
Because we have problems, we shouldn't bring other people here. By that logic, we'll never bring people here. And yes, they should address problems in this country, but that doesn't mean that we don't help other countries in the meantime. That's a stupid argument.
Pelosi and Victoria Nuland at the State Department and so many more just like them. These are the architects of the disaster we are watching unfold on television. They should be groveling for our forgiveness, but they're not. Why? Because contrition requires decency. There's no chance. So we're getting it. And if history is any guide, and it's always a guide, we will see many refugees from Afghanistan resettle in our country in coming months, probably in your neighborhood. And over the next decade, that number may swell to the millions. So first we invade, and then we're invaded. It is always the same.
Yes, they're coming to invade. They're going to destroy all of us. Ah! He's basically doing the whole white fear thing that, oh no, the brown people are coming. We got to be afraid. Yeah, they're going to conquer your country and destroy your culture and blah, 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 blah. You know, that BS argument.
We'll be spending a lot more time on that subject in coming weeks because it matters. But first, since Kabul has just fallen, it might be worth asking the most obvious question of all. Why did the Taliban win? How did the 6th century triumph over the 21st century?
They weren't using stones and sticks. They stole U.S. weaponry from the people that they killed or captured. So yeah, they were pretty well armed.
There are indications that the single most notorious and reviled government in the world, primitive people famous for their brutality, rigidity, and humorlessness.
Primitive people? Wow. Keep showing your your mask is dropping, Tucker. It's dropping. Your white nationalist mask is it's your white nationalist face is showing. Your mask is dropping, my boy.
Are more popular in parts of Afghanistan than they were when we expelled the mullahs from Kandahar 20 years ago. They don't seem to be less popular. So how did that happen? What's the answer?
Yeah, they're so popular that people are willing to cling onto planes as they're flying off to escape from the Taliban. Yes, the Taliban is popular.
We had a pause to think about that. Let's not just blow past it like it was an act of God. It's not. What is the answer? Well, countries are very complicated, all of them, so there are likely many answers. But one of those answers may be that the population of Afghanistan has firmly rejected what our leaders were selling it over 20 years. It turns out that the people of Afghanistan don't actually want gender studies symposia.
Are you telling me that the Taliban won because of gender studies? Oh, you're crazy.
They didn't actually buy the idea that men can become pregnant. They thought that was ridiculous.
Nobody ever said that men who are biologically, when your biology is male, no one said that you can be pregnant. Who says that? Nobody does that.
They don't hate their own masculinity. They don't think...
Oh yeah, I guess it's hating your own masculinity to study gender studies and believe that gender is on the spectrum. That's insane.
It's toxic. They like the patriarchy. Some of their women like it too. So now they're getting it all back.
He's justifying the Taliban's BS. I knew it. Oh my god. He's actually agreeing with their crazy policies, their crazy ideas. Okay, Tucker. That mask has fallen off. White nationalist, fascist, very misogynistic, very patriarchal. Damn.
So maybe it's possible that we failed in Afghanistan because the entire neoliberal program is grotesque. It's a joke.
So I guess Bush was pushing gender studies too on the Afghanis?
It's contrary to human nature. It answers none of our deepest human desires. It is merely a performance staged for the performer. It's not even supposed to improve your life.
He's actually made the argument that it's because of gender studies that he made the argument that it's because of gender studies that the Taliban won and that people just embrace the Taliban and the patriarchy is good. What complete nutcase.
It's ridiculous. An idea
yeah, it is ridiculous. Your argument is ridiculous.
Only be imposed by force, only with armed men at gunpoint.
So they were holding all these women who got educated, all these women who became, you know, part of the politics, senators or whatever, politicians. They were held at gunpoint? Like, no, everyone was held at gunpoint to make sure that was happening. Okay, sure, buddy.
The moment these ideas are not mandatory, the second the troops withdraw, in fact, people tend to revert to the lives that they prefer to live. That may be the real lesson of Afghanistan. Let's hope our leaders notice. Hey, Sean Hannity.
Alright, so I gotta talk about this. So Tucker's argument, basically, is that the gender studies and all the social justice is what affirmative action and making sure women got a, you know, fair shake, that's what caused the Afghanistan, for the Taliban to win, and that's why everyone embraced the Taliban. Like, first of all, absolutely insane argument. The reason the Taliban won is because the Afghan government is incredibly corrupt and the military people are incredibly underpaid and mistreated. And we, the Americans, for some reason, did not address that problem at all in the 20 years that they were there. I don't know why, but they didn't. Two, people don't like the Taliban. Women were running to the airport. Men, women, children, they were hanging from the plane as it took off. 2 people fell off and died when one of the planes took off. Right? They're that desperate to get away from the Taliban. So, no, they're not embracing the Taliban. Women like the patriot. Are you insane? So women like to be completely controlled and treated as lesser and denied so many opportunities? He's agreeing with the Taliban. This guy's nuts. And he's said that the Afghan people are inferior and, sort of primitive. Humorless. It's like, what? Oh, they're coming to your neighborhoods and they're going to take over your country and invasions and millions of people coming. Basically trying to create a fear that, oh, the Afghanis, the brown people are coming. They're coming to take over. He wouldn't be making this argument if it was European refugees or something, from Poland or something coming here. I guarantee you not. His mask dropped. His mask dropped. It went like, not completely off because he kept trying to put it back, but, it was very clear, the arguments he was making. White nationalist, fascist, misogynistic, very, very anti, basically a patriarchal argument that, people prefer it, it's against human nature. Making the argument that, it's normal, natural to have a patriarchy, to oppress women, to to have a crazy government like the Taliban. He's agreeing with the Taliban. Can you believe this? I never thought I'd see the day that Tucker would do this. I didn't think he could get crazier, but he's getting crazier. Yeah, so terrible arguments by Tucker Carlson. Terrible arguments by Tucker Carlson. Just really bad. And he was making arguments that affirmative action is necessary when the system is unfair. So there needs to be a balance. There needs to be something to make it fair, and affirmative action does that. Right? It does do that. So I think it's ridiculous. And yes, there should be a minimum because of women in power, because the system is incredibly biased against women. So this is crazy, man. This is so freaking crazy. I can't believe Tucker Carlson actually agreed with the Taliban. Like, it's insane. It shows you, his mask slipped off. It showed you what he really wants. He wants America to be a very patriarchal, misogynistic, racist society like it was back in the days. And in some ways it is now, although that's, I think, changing and we're moving forward. And sometimes we move backwards, like with Texas and Florida. They're still stuck. I don't know when they're stuck. Like 100 years ago they're stuck. he doesn't like that. He doesn't want that. And he thinks that that's why people were forced to do gender studies. Like, what? No. If it wasn't, like, that's why they accepted the Taliban, gender studies. Like, I can't believe that he made that argument. I'm in shock. So basically, I've laid out why it's stupid and all that. And, yeah, I don't think there's anything more to say. If y'all like the video, please like, subscribe, hit the bell button. I'll be doing more crazy, more videos on crazy people like Tucker like this. Leave a comment. Things you would like me to react to, things I can improve on. You know, simple things. Anyways, see y'all on the next one.